You just think we just, whatever happens, we just shit another player. And everything's going to be perfect. All of our fans think that. You all think that. That's what you write about.
You don't want to be here. There's a specific reason. Not really, I think we did a poor job recruiting if guys are coming in and immediately walking out the door because it was something different than what they thought it would be. We lied to them during recruiting, or we sold them on a dream that wasn't true.
Yeah, right now we have the atmosphere of a JC softball game. That's what we are, a JC softball team. As long as, it's not whether you win or lose. It's like the team that wins is the one that has the most fun. That crap like that. All this stuff that's contaminated America, where they give every kid a trophy and they don't keep scoring Little League anymore.
Now, that's also a second in the West, baby.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I don't like getting, it's the only time we're ever getting excited about second. From now on, it's first, okay?
Winning the SEC probably is harder than winning the national championship. Do you know that?
Well, how about them fucking dogs? My language. Turn that damn jukebox on! Hey, buddy, this beer's for you, Mike, and cousin Shane. That SEC podcast loves the Pirate, and the Pirate loves that SEC podcast. Hail State.
Welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And it's day 3 of Media Days. I'm joined by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, I got to be honest with you, Shane. There was, I'm enjoying this Media Day coverage. I'm enjoying all the content that we have to discuss. I am enjoying event, really, but it was lacking a little bit. It's not lacking anything anymore, Shane, because...
No. Oklahoma weather and con sweeping down the plain.
Oh, boy, they dropped a bomb on us. It was Brent Zerneman of the Houston Chronicle first broke the news that Oklahoma and Texas want into the SEC. Mm-hmm. Let's kick it over to Brent just real quick. He breaks it down. He was on the Paul Feinbaum show.
Talk about what you know at this point in time.
Texas and Oklahoma have reached out to the SEC to make it a 16-team conference, and the insider who clued me into this said that there could be an announcement even in the next few weeks that they could join the conference. And
boy, man, this is going to change the SEC as we know it if it happens. And it's my understanding that of the 14 teams in the league, they only need 11 to say yes to expansion. So, I'll throw it to you. What do you think about this Texas-Oklahoma? Would you be in favor of it? Would you be against it? What are your thoughts?
Mike, I mean, I don't know. I as a Tennessee fan at the bottom of this conference already, it's like, because I've already seen some projections like if this happens, they're probably going to be in the West. We're looking at adding Alabama and Auburn to the East. And it's just like, golly, am I ready for that? But, I've been preaching that this thing is eventually going to go to probably 4 conferences, 16 teams. It's just that's the future of college football. And if you're going to do it, why not bring 2 of the best teams outside of your division in? I think it's going to make for better product. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you'll never get into college football. I'm telling you, man, if they come over, you're going to have 2 lost teams getting in the playoffs. They're already gearing for that. They're expanding the playoffs as we speak. So don't worry about that. You're going to have 2 lost teams getting in, but it's going to make for some dynamic and exciting football, So I thought maybe we would add maybe an Oklahoma Clemson, but getting both Texas and Oklahoma doesn't surprise me, especially now that Disney's involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's my thoughts on it, Shane. I think that if this does happen, and again, there's no guarantee at this point, but if it happens, I don't think there's going to be divisions anymore. because 16 I think is just too unmanageable unless they do like what they did last year, where it's SEC only schedule, and you know that is very unlikely to happen because you got so many great rivalry games like Florida State, and South Carolina Clemson, and Louisville and Kentucky, and on and on and on. They're not going to do away with those games. So I have no idea how they're going to do it, but I think we'll be done with East and West. I really do.
You think it'll be like a full rotation? Like, let's just hypothetical, it's 16 teams. You thinking they're just going to rotate this thing?
I think they'd have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way to pull it off with a league that big. And I also think, now here's a big one. I think that the NCAA, as we know it, with all the changes, I think it's going away. And I think this is the SEC, and I think this is Texas and Oklahoma knowing that's going to happen, and they're basically getting their ducks in a row and saying, if the NCAA, kind of dissolves, we are going to make sure that, imagine the Pac-12 or something, if they gobbled up Texas and Oklahoma, all of a sudden they're a lot more relevant. Or maybe if the Big Ten got them, or, I don't know who it would be, but I think this is just the SEC getting out in front of it and saying, if those two teams are out there, free agents, so to speak, let's gobble them up, because it makes the most sense to put them in the SEC, I think.
Well, and I'm not super worried about these teams, man. I know it's early. A lot of people are saying, golly, Oklahoma. Well, you got to remember, Oklahoma ain't playing SEC teams 8 times a year, So I think when you go to the playoffs, you're getting the best of Oklahoma at that point. I'm not saying that their conference is garbage, but there's a reason that we're talking about rumors of them leaving it. So I don't know. I mean, it's easy as a like I said, as a Tennessee fan, to sit back and say, "Oh God, here we go again." It's getting harder. 98 is getting further away. But I tell you, college football is so crazy and so wild. It's a cycle, and if these teams get over here, I mean, here we're talking about Texas A&M. Potentially competing for an SEC championship this year. We weren't saying that when they first got into this conference. So there's no telling what this is going to look like, how this plays out. But, we all know in the back of our minds it's coming. So if it's me, I want 2 of the best teams to enter this conference. I don't want them going to the Big Ten or something like that and strengthening their ship. I want to maintain our dominance. We got to have the best teams in the league. So why not? Come on, bring it, baby. I'm ready to. I think it's going to make for great football.
Yeah, and I love the point you made. Hell, every time one of these playoff Oklahoma squads faces the SEC, they lose anyway. So maybe they're not all they're cracked up to be. You know what?
Exactly. Aren't you tired of that? I mean, it's all these teams out there, Notre Dame's and Clemson's and stuff that are sitting out there. Because here's what you're going to see, Mike. You're going to see, once this happens, you're going to see the other conferences trying to strengthen themselves and start recruiting some of these teams in. And you're not going to have these one-offs. You're not going to have these Clemson programs sitting out there that's played absolutely nobody and then get smashed in the college football playoffs. You're not going to have that anymore. So I think it kind of filters all the bullshit.
Yeah, and to go along with what you just said, now he may just be trolling, but the new Pac-12 commissioner, if anybody saw it, he put out an interesting tweet. He just said, man, one of my first days here, it got very, very interesting. So the insinuation there is, not Texas and Oklahoma, but probably the other teams in that league, probably giving him a call saying, hey, if the Big 12 disbands or whatever, can we get in with the Pac-12? So, who knows the dominoes that could occur from all this.
Let me ask you something, Mike. I joked earlier about Disney getting involved. Well, there is a massive, massive media deal on the books right now that, when exactly is this transpire?
I believe, I don't have it in front of me. I think it's 2025, which is the same time, coincidentally, that Texas and Oklahoma can get out of their Big 12 TV contract. So it kind of all lines up.
I'm not saying I got a tinfoil hat on, Mike, but this may be already in the works and we didn't know it. and now somebody, somebody left their email open and and they're like, well, hell, let's try to get ahead of this thing. So I don't know. I just think there's too many moving pieces that just coincidentally talking a minute about conspiracies. I just think that too many things are matching up here.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, before we get into the football content, I did want to share these little quick clips here. Jimbo reacting to the news, because the news literally broke as he's going up to the podium. So you knew he was going to get asked about it. And then Ross Bjork, the AD down there at Texas A&M, he was also down there, jumped on the Paul Feinbaum show. Their reactions were pretty classic.
I don't know if you've heard this, but there's a report in the Houston Chronicle that Texas and Oklahoma are inquiring about joining the SEC.
I bet they would.
What would you think about something like that?
I don't know. I'm just worried about A&M. You know what I mean? Listen, we got the greatest league in ball, so I mean, that's the choices they make or what they do. I don't know, but I don't know how I feel about it. I'm just worried about A&M. I'll control what I want to control here.
Coach, let's talk about what is expected, regardless of who comes in the league in a couple of years.
I'll say this, though. Be careful what you ask for when you jump in this league.
Yeah. Ross Bjork is here as well, the athletic director. Ross, thanks for being here. And tell us what you know about this and what you think.
Yeah. Well, Paul, as we were chatting off air a little bit, I came here to support our players, DeMarvin and Kenyon and Coach Fisher, and just hadn't seen the media in a while, and I thought it'd be good to just get out and about in the SEC footprint and kind of catch up with a lot of people in the industry. And I walk in, and pretty much the news was hitting as we were walking in the hotel. And so I was caught off guard, just like you were, and just like a lot of people here in Hoover were caught off guard. And, our position is, look, there's a reason why we left the Big 12 back in 2011 and started in July 1st of 2012, is that we wanted to have a standalone identity in the state of Texas and all the turmoil that was happening in college athletics at the time. And so the SEC has been a perfect fit for us. And we believe that we want to maintain that same identity. Perhaps there's a reason why Texas and Oklahoma are looking around, if that's the case. I think Jimbo said it on the podium. Of course they do. They want to be in the SEC. It's the best conference. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, right now in college athletics. So I think this type of story fuels that a little bit. But from our perspective, we love being in the SEC. We love being the only program in the state of Texas, and we're going to maintain that position. But we're also going to make sure that we are a leader in college athletics, and we'll see what the future holds.
All right, so, hey, Jimbo knows all about it, man. I mean, it's going into year 4, it's been a constant build, and we're still sitting here saying, can they beat Alabama? So only can imagine what that uphill climb is going to be like for Oklahoma and Texas if and when they jump into the SEC.
What about that, man? They've been hiding from Texas A&M for 4 years, and now they're going to have to start playing them. I just think about some of these matchups we would have: Texas and Alabama, Oklahoma and Georgia. I mean, there's going to be some great games if this thing transpires. So I'm looking forward to it, Mike. I first it caught me off guard, I was just like, man, we ain't ever getting to the SEC championship. But the more I thought about it, I was like, let's face it, it's pure entertainment. Don't be surprised if they don't go to an all SEC schedule. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, well, let's get into the action, Shane, because we have 4 teams again: Texas A&M, Alabama, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. We're down in Hoover for SEC Media Days. And if you missed any of it, we've been saying this. We're going to keep reminding you guys. We've got every single video from Hoover on our YouTube page. That's blowing up this week. So head on over to That SEC Podcast on YouTube. Just search it out, and you'll see each and every video. We love playing the clips, but we got the entire videos up on the YouTube page. So check that out. But, we're talking Texas A&M, so let's just stick with them.
Giga-Maggots.
The big thing now is you just went 9-1, but you still have not slain the beast of the West there in Tuscaloosa. That's the goal. How you going to get it done? Is this the year? You're hosting Alabama. And, I know everyone's got that game circled. Going into Kyle Field, there's going to be over 100,000 people. It's going to be wild. But the reality is, I know you like to tease me sometimes because I talk about the past. That's got nothing to do with the season to come. But Alabama has just made that a house of horrors for Texas A&M in the previous years. So, they got to be careful not to put all their eggs in one basket. But, in reality, that's the final thing that Texas A&M needs to, final hurdle they have in the SEC is beating Alabama. I know they did it with Johnny Manziel, but I'm thinking more about the Jimbo Fisher era because they're not getting to Atlanta until they beat Alabama. Do you think this is, I'm not asking you to predict, the outcome here, but do you think this team has the capability of beating Alabama this year?
Absolutely, man. I absolutely. In fact, we're going to get into, I'm sure they're going to come out and do the predictions here at the end of the thing. Don't be surprised if I don't have A&M winning the West. That's how confident I am about this program. I think about them last year. There's no reason that a one-loss SEC team should not have an opportunity to get in the college football playoff. That's exactly what they accomplished last year in playing 10 SEC games. They only lost to the national champ. That still blows my mind. And now you're going to have a program. Yes, are they missing a quarterback? Absolutely. But now you got Jimbo's handpicked quarterback coming in. Mm-hmm. I think that they're going to be in pretty good shape this coming up year and a dangerous team in the West.
Well, let's kick it over to Jimbo Shane. He had a lot to say on one thing in particular that we've not really discussed is, they've not won the West, but everybody recognizes them as one of the best programs in the nation currently. So, there's a challenge there of they're no longer the hunter, they're being hunted. So that's something that the Aggies have to deal with this season. And then, of course, the Alabama question came up, and I love Jimbo's response about, how hard he works because that's how hard he knows Nick Saban's working. So he's got to meet him halfway there on the quarterback competition and then on the weapons that are surrounding whoever that next quarterback is going to be.
After going 9-1, you guys are obviously no longer flying under the radar at all. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to be giving you your best shot. Is that kind of what you expect? And how do you
Well, that's where you want to be. You want to be relevant. You want to be everybody's game that they mark on the calendar. That means you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you become the organization you want to become. And now we have to deal with that, and we have to handle that, and we have to understand the responsibilities that go with that, and the standard at which we have to play and practice and prepare which each and every week.
Jimbo, as they say, iron sharpens iron. How is coaching with Nick Saban 20 years ago and now against him in the same conference help make you better?
Well, I mean, your standard of how you know that you're not going against a team that's not ill-prepared. You're not going against a team that's not very talented because they recruit well, and they're going to be able to handle big situations. So if you're going to match that, you better be at your best, and it keeps you at your best all year round. Just like he lives it every day of the year, I live it every day of the year. And if you don't, you can't meet that standard. And, he's done a great job of that, and that's the way he was when I coached for him, and that's the way he definitely is now that I'm going against him. There's no doubt.
What's the quarterback battle like? I know you've been asked that a lot, but, just how close are you to naming a starter?
Oh, they'll name the starter. I won't. Know how they play and what they do. And I'm very blessed to have two guys that I'm very confident with. Those guys Zach's tough. He's competitive. He's mentally tough. He understands the offense. He can run. People don't understand how good an athlete he is. Haynes really knows what's going on. He's competitive, tough, throws the ball really well. So we got two excellent guys. So I'm looking forward to the battle coming fall camp. I mean, I don't know. I'll know when I know and when they tell me.
Given that, how nice is it to have Isaiah Spiller, Devon Achane, Jalen Wademeyer? I mean, your weapons are plentiful around those quarterbacks, but do they have to play well too, right?
Well, they do. They have to. Their game's got to go up. But like you say, you got all three leading receivers back. You got Anais, who's phenomenal, as good a player as anybody. Hez and Chase, all three your top receivers. You got Wiedemeyer's All-American tight end. You got Spiller, who's got All-American caliber back. You got Achane, who's MVP of the game. So all those skill guys around those guys are played. Then you get, people forget, you get Caleb Chapman back. Chapman was playing pretty daggone good when had a pretty good Florida game and some games before he got hurt. Demas is in there. JP's in there. Getting Moose Muhammad back in there, get Devin Price in that group. I mean, all those guys, getting those guys back, it's a great group of guys. And to have quarterback to break them in, you want all your skill guys and all those guys around with experience. And that's going to be a huge part of their success, which I think is going to be a big advantage for those guys.
Coach, you got to replace 4 starters from the offensive line last season. When you have that many holes to fill in a unit, What's the process of figuring out who fits best where and how to get them all to play together?
Experimentation and where you put and what you think guys are. But again, I'm saying this, I think we're very talented there. I'm very blessed, and getting Jameer in, having experience helps. Luke is really an older guy. You don't really think of him as a young guy, but he's an older guy who's very knowledgeable. And then, of course, Layden has played some, has done really well, powerful. Aki does a great job. So I'm very excited about that group, along with the backups in which we have, and then the young freshmen we're bringing in. So I'm anxious. I'm really anxious to watch that group grow, because it's a very talented group of guys.
All right, Shade. So, hey, we don't have a clip for it, but there was a story that I was told here at Media Days. Apparently, Jimbo took a vacation to Tanzania, which I think is like in Africa or something. He and his family went to Tanzania this off season, and he said, I only had Wi-Fi at night, so I may have been 8 hours ahead of College Station, but I was texting with recruits every night because recruiting don't stop. But that speaks to what he's talking about here, man, about, Nick Saban is never, ever going to stop. And that's why, he's got that machine down there, and he's 70 years old, and he looks like he's 45 because, he doesn't do anything but work his ass off. So, Jimbo Fisher, I think, is meeting him there, and I think that's why the Aggies look like such a force in the SEC. You know what?
Yeah, I think that's very important. And we always talk about Saban's disciples, and that's one thing, if you know what the best is doing, you got to outdo the best. And I can only imagine how hard Nick Saban works to make sure that this thing keeps rolling. Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, he knows what's going in the pudding. He knows what it takes, and so he's got to work 10% harder. So yeah, that means there's no off time, man. You can't even take a vacation without texting recruits. That's part of college football these days.
Yeah, and that's what he knows, and I think that's why they're on the right track. And another thing that tells me that, Shane, and they had offensive lineman Kenyon Green and defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal down there in Hoover. And, man, they are not resting on anything they accomplished last season. In fact, Leal said, well, hell, we didn't get the job done last year. And I'm sitting here saying, you finished number 4 in the nation. You went 9-1 in the SEC. But he's right, because that's not the goal at A&M right now.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to win the SEC. The goal is to make the college football playoff. They did fall short, and here's what they're trying to do about it this offseason to overcome that.
You guys have 9 starters coming back on defense. How special can this year's group be?
This year's this group can be very special. Just having so much experience and just being able to know our standard as a whole, and being able to teach the young guys what it's like to play in the SEC before the games and the season starts. So it's going to be amazing.
Given the way last year ended, how close you were to the playoff, what's the vibe after spring and just the confidence of this team right now? Seems like it continues to grow.
The team grows every day. We know what our standard is, and we know exactly what we did last year that we didn't succeed in. And so being able to correct those is very important to us, and also just being able to just let it be known that we're not done yet. Like last year was just a glimpse of what we can do.
What have you seen from Zach and Haynes? I know you're on the other side of the ball, but you get to kind of go against them. So what have you seen from the 2 young quarterbacks battling out to be Kellen's replacement?
I've seen them mess up and take all that yelling, all that adversity, and not let it faze them. I've seen them step up to the plate, both of them. I've seen them compete against each other. I've seen them help each other. I've seen them become leaders of the offense like we needed them to be.
Jimbo always talks about building on success and repeating it. You guys went 9-1 last year. How do you take that next step forward this year?
Well, we can't worry about last season. That's in the past. We got to worry about what we have now. It's a whole new team. We got new players, new people on the staff. So just got to focus on what we have now and just build off of that.
Hey, Kenyon, you're one of the guys tasked to protect whoever ends up winning the starting quarterback job. So what have you seen from Zach and Haynes in the battle so far?
Both of them doing an awesome job. I'm proud of both of them. They're going out there, being a leader. When they get their chance to get in, they make sure they take care of business. And I like that. So whoever gets it, I'm glad extremely happy. You know, whoever gets it, I'm proud of them.
All right, Shane. So, like I said, man, I really like these comments here from particularly DeMarvin Leal, but also one thing that stood out to me with the quarterback competition between Hayes King and Zach Calzada. Both the guys, they mention leadership without even being prompted to comment on that. So it certainly sounds like whoever it is that's going to win this quarterback competition has already got the support of his team. And maybe that's why, you know, this is such a heated competition, because I think a lot of these competitions, the coaches just kind of say that they're a competition so that someone doesn't transfer.
Yeah.
This feels like a true competition down here in College Station.
And honestly, you love to hear it, because if it's that close, you know that you're going to get a better product when they finally decide who is quarterback one. So nobody likes quarterback controversy, but the fact of the matter is you've got one down there, and you're hoping that this competition is going, like I said, it's going to make whoever does win this job, hopefully it's a better product, because they got somebody, 2 feet behind them just waiting for that perfect opportunity.
Well, all right, Shane, look, we got to talk about the defending national champions made the short drive over to Hoover from Tuscaloosa. Roll Tide! Alabama. And, you see, unfortunately, this year, the fans are not allowed in the event, but they it was so weird how they had it. They had it roped off like 30 feet away. And you got all these Alabama fans. You had the ring champion hat guy and Saban getting out of his Mercedes, waving to the people like he's a president of the United States or something. But hey, that's the wild scene down there, man. These people, even though they knew they couldn't even get close to them, they were going to make their way down to Hoover. It was interesting because a lot of times Nick Saban shows up to these things, and he certainly seems like he's got some message he's got to get out, or he's angry about something, or he doesn't like the transfer portal, or God knows what. But this year was kind of mostly about the NIL and all that, and a lot of talk about Bryce Young and some talk about Texas A&M, but not a lot of big bold comments, I didn't think, from Nick Saban. Did you think?
No, I don't. And I was kind of surprised it was as tame as it was. There were some moments I thought they were going to get him, but no, Saban kind of just, hey, I mean, you're coming off an undefeated season, winning another national champ. I mean, what else is there to talk about? My quarterback's getting paid? Hell, they're getting paid before I got here,
Yeah, so let's kick it over to what Coach had to say. He talked about, again, Texas A&M coming up as a contender in the SEC. I really liked his comments on, I never heard any coach talk about this yet, but the importance of having fans back in the stands, being completely full capacity, and how some of his players, really were disappointed that last season was their final year and just didn't get that experience that they're used to getting with the full packed stadium. And then even this is how I knew Nick Saban was in a good mood, because he got into being a country boy from West Virginia and taking baths on the lake here. So this Saban was in rare form here.
Dave Aranda last week at Big 12 Media Days said defenses now are getting more aggressive, getting negative plays, tackles for lost stacks are more important. So he thinks that an evolution might be 12 personnel, 13 personnel, wide zone. Do you kind of see the college game going that way, or is it still important to spread it out and hit explosives in the vertical pass game?
What is 12 personnel? I got to get up. 2 tight ends?
Yes, sir.
And 2 wide receivers, or 1? I'm just kidding. I know what 12 personnel is. So.
And I was just curious your thoughts on Texas A&M, what Jimbo Fisher's building there, and do you see them as legit contenders in the SEC West?
I don't think there's any question about it. Jimbo's done an outstanding job there. They had a really, really good team last year, and very challenging game for us. It's always difficult to play there, and we have to play there this year. And I know they have a lot of good players, both sides of the ball. And I know Jimbo from, back in 2000 when we started out at LSU. He's a great coach. He does a good job. He's a good recruiter. He's well liked by the players, and he creates a culture on his team that, enhances very good competition, players being competitive and putting themselves in the best position to have a chance to win. So we have a lot of respect for Texas A&M and the kind of team that they're going to have this year.
Going into last year with a limited capacity, how important is it as a coach for you to have your players have 100% with the fans this year? And do you talk to Greg and your president about how important it is to have 100% capacity this year at Bryant-Denny?
I think that from a player's perspective, the players that went out early for the draft all had very sad eyes when they said that the thing that I regret most is playing my last season and we didn't have 100% fans. So from a player's perspective, I know how important it is for players to feel the energy, feel the enthusiasm, feel the passion, because it is a great atmosphere and environment all over the SEC, but also especially at Bryant-Denny Stadium for our players. And it's exciting, and they enjoy that part of the game and the excitement of the game, and to be able to go out and try to perform well in front of a lot of people. And so it's as important as anything to me, but it's also something that has to be safe for the people who do it. So we don't want to minimize that, even though we have a lot of enthusiasm for that to happen.
You mentioned vacation's over. I honestly have a really hard time picturing you on vacation, so I want to know, how do you turn it off, and what does vacation look like when it doesn't involve golf or Lake Burton?
Well, I'm so obsessive compulsive that we only go to Lake Burton in the summertime. That's the only place we go. And we go to our house at Gasparillo Island, which is Boca Grande in Florida, in the wintertime when we have a few days. That's the only place we ever go. So, but I do, contrary to public opinion, enjoy sort of being away, different circumstance, different environment. I really enjoy the lake. I play golf every morning. People don't like the fact that I take a bath on the dock, dive in, soap up, dive in again, rinse off. It's, kind of the hillbilly in me from West Virginia.
All right, Shade. So all I could think about after he said this was, what would you do if you were on the lake going down your boat there or raft and you saw old Saban diving in and taking a bath in the lake?
I gotta be honest with you, Mike. I'm as country as it gets, and I don't think I've ever bathed in the lake. You know what I'm saying? Actually, that sounds like it is just a lot of effort getting in the water, jumping, climbing the ladder, getting back up there. It sounds like it's a process. I think, just choose one of your 8 bathrooms to take a shower before you go out there, So I don't know. Yeah, he's country. All right. So I'm surprised now that he said this, I guarantee there's going to be some Alabama fan out there with his GoPro trying to catch Saban, getting him a quick bath in the morning.
The sad thing is, I think you're 100% right on that one.
Oh, yeah. He does what? Honey, get the camera.
All right, well, let's skip it down to the players that were down there for the Crimson Tide. We had Fadarian Mathis and John Mechie, and it was interesting. They both talked about Bryce Young, but kind of the key here for both these guys, I thought, is they talked about, fighting off complacency and the Alabama standard. And, I'm not trying to take away anything from Nick Saban, because I believe firmly that he's the greatest coach of all time. But I think the true motivator down there in Tuscaloosa, particularly in the offseason, because the coaches are not always around the players, the true motivator is these players. And the fact that, if you slack, you're going to lose your spot, because the roster's just absolutely loaded. And I think the young guys learn from the older guys. They basically tell them, hey, you do this for 3 years, you're off to the NFL, you're going to be making money, winning championships. And that's the sense that I got after hearing Mathis and Mechie.
About Texas A&M, I just want Do you see them as legit SEC West contenders this year? And could the game where you guys go to Kyle Field this year, could that be a big game?
Definitely. I definitely think Texas A&M is a good team, and I definitely think they will be good this year. And also playing at their stadium will definitely be special. They definitely do have a great atmosphere there.
People ask, how are you guys able to do this? You know, this dynasty that has been Alabama football for all these years. Is it the players holding each other accountable to a certain level, combined with what Coach Saban holds you guys to? I mean, just in a few words or sentences, how are you able to do this?
Definitely. I think it's definitely a combination of all of those with Coach Saban and the players. I think it's the principles and values of the place, the standard that we have of discipline, toughness, commitment, effort, pride, all of those, and kind of just the players, us wanting to be great, just being competitive and holding ourselves to that standard.
Bryce Young saw some action last year, but obviously with Mac taking most of the snaps throughout the season. What did you see from him? I know that he had limited stats throughout the 2020 season, but how excited are you for what he can do heading into this camp?
I'm definitely excited for Bryce. You kind of see that he had an awareness out there. He had all the tools. So definitely excited to see him get comfortable in there and play his game.
You talk about shouting out your team, your quarterback, Bryce Young, a lot of hype going into the season. What have you seen at him as a leadership and as skill-wise going into this year, replacing Mac Jones, a first-round draft pick?
Yes, sir. I'm very excited for Bryce Young. He stepped up being a leader. He's more vocal now, and I'm just very excited to see what he does coming into fall camp.
Is it any more challenging going into a season coming off a national championship where maybe you're afraid of guys getting complacent and just they expect to win?
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing, to stay on guys about what last year's team did. This is a whole new team, and saying like we can't think about that, 'cause we trying to get back to that point. I mean, we can use that as motivation, but being cocky like we won, like we already won, that's not going to get us nowhere. So.
All right, Shane. So, I mean, you hear it from these guys, and it just kind of, if there is a secret to the success in Alabama, it's just the fact that, Nick Saban and his coaching staff and his program, the players, they've just, I don't want to say trick the players, but they've got it in them to where they know, the standard, and the standard just never, ever seems to decline. And I think that's the true secret to their success down there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do. And I always go back to that video that we put out in the off season, Saban recruiting, and he's talking to the guy and he says, one of the worst things that these other players or coaches can tell you is that, well, don't go to Alabama because you could come here and start immediately. He's like, that's the worst. He goes, I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't think you could start at Alabama. And you're competing against the best. He went on to talk about, the number one left tackle going against the number one right end, the number one cornerback going against the number one receiver, and so on and so forth. And that's, and it boils down. That's why they got so many damn players in the NFL, Mike. It's a combine every time that these boys get out there on the field. So it doesn't surprise me that the talent just reloads. That old comment, we don't rebuild, we reload. Alabama's got it down to an art.
Yeah, they really do. And hey, good for them. It's just kind of depressing to sit here and think about it.
Yeah, that's right, man. There's a couple of people in Texas like, you sure you want to make this move?
All right, next on the docket, Shane, Mississippi State. Mike Leach's anticipated debut, and man, did he live up to it. Came right out, no opening statement, 10 seconds of an opening statement, whereas some of these...
Hey, got time for that, Mike. Are you going to play that? Are you going to play that clip? Because I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, let's play that because, some of these damn coaches come out here for 20 minutes talking about the damn roster.
Yeah.
Like you said, Mike Leach does not give a damn about that. And I'll play this one for you too, Shane. He was asked about his Tennessee and the coup, and he's just happy that he was not involved in that.
All right, I'm not a big opening statement guy, and plus you guys are going to ask whatever you want to know anyway. So let's just go ahead and get started. Is there any questions?
Was there a moment a few years ago when you were at Washington State that you thought you might be the next head coach at Tennessee?
I talked to Tennessee, but that that thing never. Well, it did nothing. Nothing ever got nailed down, and then pretty soon they had a coup d'état there, and you guys can sort that among yourselves, but that's pretty well documented. And then, yeah, I didn't end up in the middle of the coup, so lucky for me.
All right, so those were just some of the highlights from Coach Leach. But, I think Mississippi State, again, listeners of this show, hell, remember we went through the record and kind of gave them a thumbs up, thumbs down on their entire schedule. And 8, 9, even, some of these fans thinking 10 wins. That's not totally unrealistic when you consider how well the defense played last year. And what they really just need is that offense to come together. And that's what happened at the tail end of last season. So, the expectations are very, very high. There's a reason so many teams in the NFL are now running this air raid offense, because the godfather of the air raid, Mike Leach, has been successful everywhere he's been. And now that it's made its way to the NFL and it's having so much success there, that still gives Mississippi State such an edge that no other program in the SEC has got the mastermind of this offense here. And now going into year 2 of the system, I think everybody, even myself included, is underrating what this Mississippi State football team could be this year. They're almost like the ultimate wild card in the SEC, don't you think?
They really are. And I think the big thing when you look at the Pirate is his track record. He never does well his first year. It's the second year growth. And what we saw with Mississippi State from the beginning of the season to the end of the season leads you to believe. That's why they got all this hype coming out, Mike, because look at how much they progressed during the season. Imagine a full off season with no COVID restrictions, just getting out there and learning this offense. And getting more weapons. I'm telling you, man, Mississippi State is a sneaky team. We talked about Ole Miss. I don't want to play any team from Mississippi. I'll tell you that right now. It's just because they could beat any program just by the way that they play offense.
And, that's something that Coach Leach was talking about going into year 2 of his air raid system and how much smoother it'll be. And he particularly noted that the spring camp was so big for his program. So let's kick it over to Mike Leach.
Coach, so Austin Williams also said that implementing the air raid this year after going through it a whole season, it's kind of easier, obviously. They're not learning as much. They're just being told where to go in the moment, and they're picking it up a lot better. Have you noticed that it's gotten a lot smoother than it did that first year? Obviously, COVID and no spring ball, it hurt that. How much smoother has it looked in practice?
Well, in spring, it definitely has. Instead of everybody thinking about things, it's more automatic. They get where they're supposed to be quicker and more precisely. Which synchronizes things, and as that happens, it elevates the execution. We still got a ways to go, no question, but it was a big improvement from the season.
All right, Shane, but so it wasn't only Mike Leach talking about year 2. The receiver Austin Williams also got into that on just how far the progression of the offense has come along, and he too noted that spring, how big that would be for the Bulldogs. And then, SEC fans that may not know this name, I know he's a big name in Starkville, but get to know it now because he's the next great linebacker in the SEC. Aaron Brule on the high energy around this program in the building. And I love the fact that he's one of these Louisiana guys that, he's at Mississippi State. That, that's a story as old as time, just like Dak Prescott, who probably, LSU maybe strung him along or maybe didn't even want him, and he had to go to Mississippi State, and now he's one of the SEC's best players. That gave him a chip on his shoulder that he still got today playing there for the Bulldogs.
What are kind of your expectations for this offense heading into this season?
I definitely think we're going to be more consistent.
I'm looking for us to raise our level of play. Honestly, I loved how we finished last season. I thought we finished on a strong note. I'm looking for us to continue that and just continue to raise the bar and not be satisfied at all and just continue to grow.
So far in the offseason in practice, is this you kind of see this being an explosive, fast-paced, high-powered offense this year?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we've grown. Off-season's been huge for us. I know having spring ball has been a big part. Getting a lot of guys more reps, just kind of getting used to the offense, figuring out the intricacies of it. I know we're excited. We're feeling good. We're ready to get rolling.
Hey, Austin. So new scheme, year one. Take some time to learn. Obviously, there were some growing pains, but now year two as a wide receiver, how exciting is that offensive scheme under Coach Leach?
We're definitely excited. Just, have that consistency. It's a reps-based offense. Get a bunch of guys in it, having spring ball, coming up on camp, starting here soon. We're excited. I think everybody's, getting a better feel, better understanding. Like for installs now, we're not going to be like, oh, what is this? We know what we're doing. We've done it plenty of times, ready to roll.
When you look at, last year and, hopefully, obviously getting better this year, what signs have you seen already that you guys are headed in the right direction and ready to take a step forward?
I've seen high energy from everybody on the team. Coach Leach has given us great advice on what to do this offseason in order to be even better for next season. And just all the guys being on one tune and getting going.
Just how tough is it being in the SEC West, when week in, week out, every opponent, high competition? And do you embrace maybe being overlooked a little bit coming into a season? Is that easier, harder for you?
I know when I came to Mississippi State, obviously you see guys all around the league, the NFL and stuff like that, who come from Mississippi State. And when I chose to come to Mississippi State, I knew I would have to have that chip on my shoulder, and I already had that chip on my shoulder from being somewhat under-recruited and things of that sort. So, that's definitely what I look forward to being at Mississippi State.
All right, Shane. So, this is what you want to hear from, Austin Williams, the progression of the offense, and then Brule. Like I said, you got that chip on his shoulder. That's kind of the edge that we saw from Zach Arnett's Mississippi defense. Remember, last time we saw him on the field, man, it was the brutal brawl game, and that just, it just goes to display, how much of an edge this defense has got to it. And I like the fact that carried over into the offseason, don't you?
Absolutely. And you know what else is carrying over is this fan base. I knew there were some Hail State fans out there, obviously, but I'm telling you what, man, since the tail end of last football season with the baseball program, these guys are used to winning and they want to continue to grow. I'm happy for them because Mississippi State deserves nice things. And I'm telling you, the Pirate is bringing nice things to Starkville.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but that is a great point too. Just the fact that, the baseball team won the national championship. I know that's got nothing to do with, the actual football team, but that's got to just bring so much energy and enthusiasm and kind of togetherness of, I would think, the entire athletic program. And just learning that Mississippi State can win a national championship. They can compete in the SEC. We'll have to see how that wave of momentum goes into the season, but it's kind of hard to see it doing anything but helping the Bulldogs this year.
No joke, man. I wish I owned a cowbell, or a cowbell store. I'd be a multi-millionaire because them damn things are going to be ringing like crazy this year.
All right, last team, Shane. Vanderbilt. Clark Lee's debut down here at SEC Media Days, and now I don't know if you saw his suit, Shane, but man, it was pretty awesome. I gotta admit, maybe that is a Vanderbilt tradition because now that I think about it, Derek Mason always came out looking pretty sharp too, but Clark Lee's carrying that tradition on. And, I gotta be honest. I know Shane Beamer wowed everybody in his debut at SEC Media Days, but Clark Lee, as a guy I've talked to a couple of times, and I didn't know, how he'd perform on this stage. And I thought, the message that he had and just his vision for what Vanderbilt football can be, I was pretty damn impressed by everything he had to say. What about you?
I was, but, it was a tough lineup, Mike. Think about that. The Pirate, Nick Saban, fast-talking Jimbo coming back trying to compete for the West. Then you got Vandy sitting there. Now, I love the story of Vanderbilt. I love what he represents for this university because I think that's kind of the vibe they're trying to set up, like a family, and they're going to build from within. And I think that's kind of, you're going to hear these players talk here in a minute, and it's just like control what you can control. Vanderbilt's not going to wow you on offense. They're not going to excite you on defense, but they went through a lot last year. And if they could control what they could control and just focus on their job at hand, that's what it feels like, is that they want to focus on details. Don't make mistakes. Let the other programs make mistakes. And that's how Vanderbilt can stay in some of these games. It's a tough road. I get that. But they do have weapons you've probably not heard of, you haven't even thought about. But, Vanderbilt's not the cupboards weren't completely bare when Coach Lee came in town.
And I love the fact that he brought his old football helmet that he actually wore. He's a former walk-on. He's a fullback. He's got that mentality, and I think that is going to suit him well. Just the work that it must take to be a walk-on in the SEC, to work your way up the depth chart. That is the type of work that is needed desperately in Nashville right now to make Vanderbilt climb that SEC ladder and make them relevant in the league. So let's kick it over to Coach Lee on the year one goals and the vision of his program. I thought it was pretty interesting too. He talked about we're very high on Ken Seals, and everybody that's seen him play I think is, but he's not handing him anything. Mentioning 3 quarterbacks here that are competing for the starting job, and then on the expectations for his team on the football field this year.
A lot's been made about having your players earn their number, earn the logo on the helmet, go through that reset that you've talked about. How rewarding has it been to see these young men go through that process and grow as individuals, but also grow as a team?
It's been probably the most rewarding thing that I've experienced in my career, I think. Just, we do these things for us. They're not for anyone else. We understand the context and the significance of what we're doing, and we're trying to create something special that's shared, it's together. And you don't have to train people to be selfish anymore, but you have to we all need training to be unselfish and to think of others before ourselves. The jersey number idea wasn't something that I had my mindset on. Anytime I was going to get a head coaching job, this is what I do. It was more about seeing the need and filling the need, and knowing that this team needed a reset at a level where we stopped identifying ourselves through things that don't matter and started to identify as teammates first, as workers second, and as a collective effort that's charging towards a common goal. And so what we've seen as they've earned their numbers, what we saw when they earned their way into the new locker room, is the excitement, the exuberance, the spirit of a team that's on a mission. And we'll continue to do that, and it starts with me. They know, my players know well, that there's not one year in my 16 of coaching that validates me for this job. I don't deserve it. I have to earn it, and that's every day. And so even those that have earned the number, it's not an ending for them. It is truly a beginning, and now they're to pull their teammates to their jerseys too.
When you look at your year one, what would you say your main focus is in order to start turning the program around?
Well, we've insulated our program, and we're rehabbing internally first. I mean, everyone wants to have an opinion about Vanderbilt football, but I'm most concerned about the opinions that are in our building. That starts with everything that our players meet is different than it was in the past. I'm not recruiting to the past. I'm recruiting to the potential. I hired a coaching staff that's in total alignment and total lockstep with the vision for what's possible at Vanderbilt. That's what we focus on. And what I need is a team that sees that vision and works to actualize that vision every single day. Because what happens when you protect the internal perception or grow the internal perception, you fuel external confidence. And a team that is going to be exposed in the arena going to be measured against an opponent needs to know a lot about themselves first. And so that's where the focus, that's where the effort's been. It's every day we're a work in progress. Every day there may be a new need or an adjustment to what we're doing, an adaptation, just to get this team in position to be the best it can be in 2021.
Chrissy Freud, Sports Illustrated. What are your expectations for Ken Seals specifically, and does he remind you of any other quarterbacks that maybe you've seen or coached in the past?
Well, right now my expectation is that he competes for the starting job. I mean, we have Jeremy Musa and Mike Wright that are going into fall camp for the best man to earn it. That's not to take anything away from Kenny, but it's also to say that if we're going to be in an environment that everyone's to earn it every day, that needs to be a part of our mantra heading into position battles too. Kenny had a great winter and spring. I think he's developed as a leader. I see his confidence increasing. He has the ability to, with his athleticism, to extend plays and to convert first downs. And he has arm talent, and I think those two things at Vanderbilt are going to be at a premium. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that, Mike Wright has developed so much through the spring. He had a terrific spring game. And I'm really excited to see what he's capable of this fall. And then again, Jeremy Musa, who, is as competitive as any of them, as he works to hone his skills this fall too. It's going to be exciting to know that we have three guys that can compete with each other, that can sharpen each other, and that'll make our team better by the time we're playing.
What are your expectations this year on both for your offense and, on the defensive side of the ball as well?
Offensively, I want an attitude. I want an attitude and a style of play that's physical, that can change the pace, that uses shift motion and formation to create matchups. And when we create those matchups, we finish with catches. Let's design to create space for our players, and let's get balls to our playmakers so that they can go do what they do. We're going to finish drives with touchdowns in the red zone, and that's how we're going to be successful on offense. It's an attitude. On defense, obviously, if you turn the film on and watch a defense play, it's all about being effort-based. It's about knowing your structures, but it's about playing really, really hard, playing harder, longer than your opponent. And so it's the swarm of the football. It's multiple hats at the finish. Again, we have to be structurally sound. We have to know, how we design defensively around the opponent's strengths. But I want to see 11 guys that are playing together and playing hard. And if we can do that, we're going to be competitive, and we're going to be in those close games late that a high-character team will win.
All right, Shane. So, I think it's easy to get a sense of what I was saying. Clark Lee selling his vision, and it certainly seems like, he's really got that locked in, and I don't think he's going to be wavering in his goals and missions there at Vanderbilt. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what they need to, it's probably, we got to be perfectly honest. It's going to be rough this year, I would think, but it can't be any rougher than it was. You know what I mean? So the climb starts now, and now we got to find out how much grit this team's got, because I think if they surprise a couple people, if they follow what Coach Lee is saying here, they will manage to win a couple games. And I'm just interested to see, which teams they upset this year.
Well, and I think it all starts in that quarterback room. That was one of the first questions they asked. And does Ken Seals, does he take that step forward? Does he develop going into this next year? And I think I hate to put it on the young man's shoulders, but that's what you got to have at a team like Vanderbilt to win some of these SEC games.
Mm-hmm. Now let's kick it over. He brought two linemen with him: Bradley Ashmore, the offensive lineman, and Davion Davis, the defensive lineman. They both talked about, what it's like playing for Clark Lee, what they've learned from him. They both talked about the quarterback competition, and I really love these comments from Bradley Ashmore on fans returning. And, he reminded me of you, Cousin Shade, talking about, just playing on the line, and there's just nothing better than being a football player with the fans in the stands, and how it's, there's nothing more important to him in life. And, I think a lot of fans can really resonate with what Ashmore had to share right here.
Just curious, what are your initial thoughts on Clark Lee and, the new head coach, and where you guys are headed?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Coach Lee got here back in January, and we've been putting in a lot of good work since then. So, we're just really excited to put our product on the field. We've been having an awesome off-season, both on the field and the weight room and all aspects of it. So, we're just really excited here getting into fall camp and getting ready for the season.
What has been the biggest adjustment from the Derek Mason era to the Clark Lee era for you guys?
Yeah. So, like I said, when Coach got back here and got here in January, things have just ramped up, and I don't want to do too much comparison before and after, but we've just been, putting in a lot of work this off season, and it's been going really well. We're structured our training very tightly, so we developed a lot of discipline, and just moving forward towards the season. Just looking forward to getting into camp here and getting to work.
Being on the offensive line, talk about the guys you have in that quarterback room that you're protecting every day in practice and in the games. Talk about the talent you've got in that quarterback room at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for our quarterback room. Last year and heading into this year, we've had a lot of competition all off season. It's been great, and I'll talk about Ken Seals. Me and him are actually roommates, and Mike Wright as well, and Jeremy Musa, and all these guys have different skill sets that they bring to the table, and they've been working really hard all off season, competing against each other. So I'm just really excited to see that competition continue into fall camp and to put the best product on the field.
When you look at 2021, hopefully being more of a normal football season, how excited are you to, play in front of full stadiums again across the league, as opposed to last year where you guys, didn't have that opportunity?
Yeah, no doubt. Like a lot of guys, like most guys in college football, I'd say, football is my life. It's what I love to do. It's what consumes most of my time, and getting to go out in front of thousands of people and do what you love to do is just a dream come true. So I can't wait to get back out there in those stadiums and, show all this hard work that we've been putting on. So I got no words for it. It's the best feeling in the world. And obviously it wasn't as crazy last year, but still, every time you step into a stadium like that is a blessing. So you just got to count them.
Curious your impressions. I know it's been a few months now, but of Clark Lee and just kind of your expectations with him moving forward.
Right. As far as expectations, from what I know now, Coach Lee is one of the most fair men that I've ever met. He doesn't tolerate anything, no matter who it is, and he has a very strong will, very strong-minded when it comes to our team and our abilities and what Vanderbilt represents. So I love the guy, and I love the progression that we've made and the way that we're going. So as far as expectations, I think the sky's the limit.
After kind of the rough season that you guys went through last year, what are some signs that you've seen already that or that are encouraging that you guys are going to take a step forward this year?
Absolutely. I think the first one is just our respect and appreciation for where we're at. Coming into this off season, we've been grinding, and we've been definitely learning to respect and appreciate everything that we have. As far as whether it's saying hello to the cafeteria lady to making sure the weights are put up right in the weight room, everything is a detail, and we're taking a lot of responsibility for what we can do and how we can move this program. So as far as that, I think becoming humble workers is our biggest thing, and we've been working hard, and I know that good things are in store.
All right, Shane. So, hey, at least it sounds like early on these players are really buying in to what Clark Lee's selling down there, and it just sounds like there's no flash. It doesn't sound like it's more about hard work and grinding out and earning everything down there, and that is what is desperately needed, because they're not going to be given anything in the SEC. They've got to go out there and earn it, and it certainly sounds like they're putting in the early work that's going to be required to build this program back up.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for Vanderbilt is the fact that Coach Lee's been there, that he has. I mean, he's wore the same helmet. He has grinded. He has, taken advantage of the limited opportunities that he had at that program. Let's face it, Mike, it's an SEC program.
Mm-hmm.
We like to make fun of Vanderbilt every now and then, but I'm telling you what, there's a lot of high school athletes out there that does not get an opportunity to play past the 12th grade. And, you cannot squander those opportunities. And that's what, you hear the young man speaking here, and I could feel it, man. I remember my last game, and man, I'd give anything to play for Vanderbilt. I wish they would have called me. Tennessee was obviously my first pick, but man, hell, Vanderbilt called me. I mean, you get an opportunity to play in SEC cathedrals. You know what I'm saying? So don't squander the opportunity. Love what you're doing, and I think that's what Coach Lee's going to bring to that is just that excitement and that, hey man, you're here. Let's have some fun. And who knows? I mean, maybe they catch a few teams off guard this year. Can I make a joke though?
Oh yeah, go
Have you
ahead.
seen? I I didn't want to do this, but I thought this picture was hilarious. Did you see the Olympics coming up? They made those no sex beds like out of cardboard. Did you see those?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they come across. There's been all kinds of memes and stuff, but the one that made me laugh the hardest was there was these pictures. They said leaked photos of the no sex bed, and it was a Vanderbilt outfit, like a Vanderbilt mattress cover, bandy pillows, everything.
You just had to get a jab in there when we're talking some Vanderbilt
sorry.
football, didn't you?
I'm sorry. That's the Vol in me, baby. So no, I felt kind of bad for Coach Lee because, like I said, he went up there against some dynamite comp. I mean, everybody's there for Saban. Everybody's there to see what Lee. I mean, they're cutting these coaches off, saying, "Hey, we've only got 2 more questions." You get to Vanderbilt, you get to teams like Tennessee. The coaches are basically begging them to ask questions. So I thought he did great. I thought the players did great. They handled themselves well, and I think that's important too because they kind of Vanderbilt has this. I don't know. They have this their own vibe. You know what I'm saying? It's like graduating from Vanderbilt means a lot. I mean, especially when you're getting a job. So I think that they work on that. They sounded professional. That's just, I don't know. I just thought they did great.
Well, Shane, that's going to wrap up our coverage from day 3 of SEC Media Days. And, we got 3 more teams to go. We're not slighting Arkansas, Auburn, and Missouri, but they're up on Thursday. So we'll have you fully covered with them. Cannot wait. All 3 of these coaches, it's going to be their debuts at SEC Media Days because Sam Pittman and Eli Drinkowitz didn't have an opportunity last season, obviously. And then Brian Harsin, first-year Auburn coach. So I cannot wait to see what we got the final day of SEC Media Days. But, hey, that's going to do it, buddy. Appreciate you hopping on the line. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us all week long, talking some SEC football. The season will be here before you know it. You got anything else before we hop off here?
No, man, I appreciate the YouTube comments or the content. I know you've been really busy. I turned the alerts on, and it's like every time you send a video out, it ringed my phone, so I jump on there. That's how I was able to keep up the SEC Media Days. It's fantastic. So I appreciate the effort you put into that. Jump on there, subscribe, turn your alerts on. So whenever something gets posted, you got quick access to that. So, but other than that, Mike, I don't have anything. I'm pumped up. We got some college football news out here. We got a few more teams tomorrow, but man, just think about it. We're talking about college football every day. This is what I love, man. We're a long month away from real college football.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Shane, thanks again for joining me. Appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll catch you on the next one to wrap up SEC Media Days.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols.
Favorite movies? I mean, I got a bunch of favorite movies. Some really good ones. Rio Bravo. a sting. Everybody likes Citizen Kane, and I like Citizen Kane. Anything by Alfred Hitchcock. I would say Psycho and Rear Window would be my favorites. Oh, the Rope's good too. And then I'll tell you one that you don't hear them talk about or see so much anymore is Where Eagles Dare was a great movie, all-star cast, that type of thing. And then and a lot of all-star cast ones really aren't very good. Well, because there's not enough space for everybody. You know, you try, by the time you have space for this hot shot, space for this hot shot, space for, well, then there's no plot because all there is these, you know. And Fargo's a great movie. Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, Outlaw Josie Wales. There's a bunch. I could be your old. A Wonderful Life is a tremendous movie. Pretty much anything by Frank Capra is a great movie. The best one I've seen this year, it's got Better Call Saul in it, and it's called Nobody. Nobody, yeah. That's the best one I've seen this year. I mean, and we've been on kind of a drought this year, in my humble opinion. Besides, there's not so many. I mean,
Coach, we have time for 2 questions. We'll go in the back on your right, and then we'll come to the front row.
He wants to talk about something other than movies, so he hated all those movies. All right, go ahead.
I don't know about that one.
Guys that I know, and I got most fighter pilot type of guys that I know, and I know some test pilots and things. Almost all of them say, yeah, I've seen some stuff out there I can't explain. They don't necessarily say it's from outer space.
Sure.
And they don't even necessarily believe it's from outer space. But it's something they can't explain. It's something like, is this another country doing this? Is this some kind of atmospheric thing, but that they can't explain? So, I mean, there's definitely things out there. What the source of it is, I don't know. But it has always made sense to me that there's life on other planets. I mean, we know that we're one galaxy, and there's galaxy upon galaxy upon galaxy. And then the people that go, oh, it's impossible. How can there be anywhere else? Well, the reverse of that's the reverse of that is a lot more likely. I mean, really, we're the only ones? We're that special. We're the only ones. Okay, there's hundreds of galaxies out there, but we're the only ones. Well, of course we are. I mean, to me, that's ridiculous. And it's possible, but it's unlikely to me. I mean, the notion that we'd be the only civilization with any form of life.